Yeah, thank you so much, Tracey. So once again, welcoming Tracey, who's going to be talking to you about understanding infant sleep. And thank you.
Okay, well, welcome everyone, and thank you for joining me this morning. So today I'm going to present a condensed version or snapshot of my online sleep workshop, where I provide infant sleep support mainly in the first year for parents. I use a holistic approach with no quick fix promises, working with parents, sharing sleep physiology, researched information with tools and tips from my work experience. From my work experience and my training with sleep expert Tracey Hopgoode. So, you are the expert of your baby. You, the parents, will be the experts of your baby. You are the ones completely immersed in their life, watching and caring over them. And although you may need support at some point, never lose faith in your own intuition. So as you are here in the very first Due Date Club Summit, preparing for your own baby's arrival, I'm going to focus on the 4th trimester, which is the first 12 weeks at home with your baby. Mainly because sleep architecture, the length and depth of sleep, changes for babies significantly from 3 to 6 months. My approach to sleep support. Well, firstly, why age appropriate? And I want to examine your expectations of sleep to understand that infant sleep is not to be feared. To empower parents with information, being aware that a baby's sleep changes with age is respectful and critical for infant sleep safety. So, as with birth preparation, by acquiring knowledge, so it goes with sleep. A little knowledge about age-appropriate sleep may help guide you to become confident and connected parents. Okay, I'm just, okay, there we go. So, as a doula, I do not give medical advice, although I do provide parents with researched information so they can make informed choices for birth, feeding and sleep. However, many doulas are trained in adult and paediatric first aid. So of course, I must begin with safe sleep information and signpost you to check out the UK charity, the Lullaby Trust, formerly known as the Foundation for the Study of Infant Death Syndrome, or SIDS. Founded in 1971 and recently celebrating 50 years anniversary. In 1991, the foundation launched the Back to Sleep campaign in the UK. Parents were encouraged to place their babies on their backs to sleep. The incidence of SIDS in the UK dropped by 80%. So needless to say, it was a huge success. On this website, you will find all the up-to-date researched information on safe sleep for your baby. They also have infographics free to download on safe sleep in 23 languages, including Arabic. These cards really are a great resource for professionals and parents alike. Firstly, I want to reassure you that frequent feeding, including night wakings, are completely normal in the first weeks and should not be pathologized or seen as a problem. In fact, short sleep cycles, minimum deep sleep, and frequent night waking protect young infants from SIDS. So, to quote Tracey Hopgoode, this is a safety feature, not a design fault. Okay, slide 3. Safe bed sharing and breast sleeping. When a baby is born, they are hardwired for survival, and a bub food will search for the loving warmth of the mother through smell and touch. Upon birth, the important golden hour of skin on skin is the beginning of this connection, or dyad. Therefore, normal infant physiology is to breastfeed and sleep in close proximity together. The safest place for a baby to sleep is in a crib at the side of the parent's bed, or intentional safe bed sharing. UNICEF and the Lullaby Trust have updated their advice on bed sharing. Intentional bed sharing is safe. Studies have found that mothers who do bed share and breastfeed actually get more sleep and breastfeed for longer. Plus, babies seem to settle back to sleep more easily. I have included a UNICEF flyer available to download, Caring for Your Baby at Night. Also a link to the Lullaby Trust sleep advice video. Co-sleeping advice video. The Laleshi League highlights the leading infant sleep researcher, Professor James McKenna, and his colleague Lee Getler, having coined the phrase breast sleeping to describe the biological symbiosis of mother and child sleeping together and nursing throughout the night, calling it humankind's oldest and most successful sleep and eating arrangement. McKenna expands on this concept and addresses common questions in his most recent book for parents, Safe Infant Sleep. So what is the guidance on intentional bed sharing? Well, parents shouldn't bed share if they've been smoking, drinking alcohol, or taking recreational drugs, taking meds that make you drowsy, or parents who are really tired with 5 hours sleep in 24. But you can prepare to bed share by ensuring a safe space in the bed, which includes no heavy duvets or loose bedding that could cover the baby's head. Lay the baby in the curve of your body with your arm above their head and your knees bent. This is known as the C shape. Do not lay the baby on a pillow next to you. They must be on a flat, firm mattress. This is really important. So the baby stays flat with no possibility of rolling. The benefits of bed sharing: increase human milk supply, more comfortable nighttime feed positions, especially after a cesarean birth. Most parents do bed share at some time or other because it's easier and some babies settle easily. I do love this quote from author, speaker, IBCLC, Pinky McKay. And check her out if you haven't already done so. She has a great Instagram page. Quote, telling parents not to bed share is like telling teenagers not to have sex. So same advice, do it safely. I understand bed sharing is not for everyone. Some parents do find it much easier in the first weeks to breastfeed and settle the baby close to you. But equally, a side crib close to the bed may also prove successful. Lindsay Hopgoode explains that lowering a baby down can trigger the Moro reflex or startle. That's when their hands suddenly jerk out. For a baby, this can feel like they are falling. So, sliding your baby across instead of lowering into a side crib can help prevent this sudden waking. So that's a little tip when putting your baby down to sleep. So please read the information to help make safer choices. Okay, so a little bit about sleep biology. How is sleep regulated? Well, sleep is a homeostatic bodily function. So we can't teach a baby how to sleep. And sleep is regulated by two mechanisms: your circadian rhythm and homeostatic sleep pressure. Your nighttime sleep is partly driven by circadian rhythm or body clock, influenced by daily habits, daylight, the sun, and other environmental factors. Naps are driven by sleep pressure. That's the need to fall asleep due to the time spent awake. These two mechanisms are separate and interactive. So just to recap, sleep pressure builds by the amount of time you've been awake, and irrespective of what time it is. Circadian rhythm will continue ticking, irrespective if you are awake. So you notice if you travel and you go through time zones and get a little jet lag, your daily habits need to readjust, and your night sleep is out of rhythm. Homeostatic sleep pressure may force you to take a daytime nap in your new time zone until your circadian rhythm adapts. Okay, so as I said earlier on, you won't fail to notice your newborn will sleep more in the day and feed at night, frequent night feedings. This is completely normal. So please try and not get anxious about it. This type of irregular feeding and frequent night waking will settle. This is not something you need to fix or adjust. As you may already know, the hormone prolactin, responsible for human milk production, is more active at night. Night feeds, particularly in the first 3 months, are absolutely age appropriate and essential to maintain human milk supply. You may decide to let your partner give a night feed and give a bottle of express milk. For infants under 3 months, using milk that is pumped during the evening will contain higher levels of the hormone tryptophan, which makes the baby sleepy after feeding. Although I would advise establishing a good milk supply and feeding rhythm before introducing a bottle around 4 weeks. Daily habits and environmental factors influence the circadian rhythm or body clock. The only aim in the first weeks is to facilitate the exposure to daylight and your daily habits to achieve circadian rhythmicity. The circadian rhythm is underdeveloped at birth and is mostly influenced by the sun, daylight, also environmental noise and home life activities. It does take a bit of time to establish, anywhere between 1 and 3 months as an average. There is some evidence that circadian rhythm establishes sooner with summer babies than winter babies. Homeostatic sleep pressure is present from birth. So the longer you're awake, the more of the hormone adenosine, the sleepy hormone, builds in the brain. Important to note, it's very hard to fall asleep with pressure, obviously, but relevant when avoiding prescriptive bedtimes. I'll go into more detail how you can shape your baby's sleep later on. So there are 2 types of sleep for babies under 3 months: rapid eye movement sleep, REM, active sleep, and non-REM, slow wave sleep. They spend around 50% in active REM sleep, and 50% in non-REM sleep, slow wave sleep, during a sleep cycle. Sleep cycle lasting around 50 minutes. I do love watching a baby in REM sleep, seeing their eyelids fluttering and wondering what on earth they're dreaming of. It may take up to 20 minutes for a baby to go into non-REM sleep. So when you feed your baby, or when you feel your baby is ready to settle, holding them in arms for around 20 minutes before laying down may prove more successful. Also, it's good as I said before, to slide your baby in rather than lowering. And occasionally it's good to lay your baby down awake. Babies are very sensitive to temperature, hot and cold. So check the tummy and back of the neck. If it's hot and clammy, then take a layer off. Their body temp will naturally lower towards dawn, the early hours of the morning. So they can often wake up feeling cold. Feet regulate the body's core temperature. It may help to put some socks on after a feed to prevent an early morning waking, but no promises. So as a new mum, your sleep pressure may be signalling sleep during the day, but napping would not normally be part of your daily habit. So, hey, listen to your body and take that nap, mama. Okay. Self-regulation and self-soothing. I'm sure you've heard of this. And this is certainly something I had to unlearn when I retrained with Lindsay Hopgood. Self-regulation is going from a state of stress to a state of calm. So as adults, we become stressed as our brains are mature enough to allow us to respond to a stressor and decide to fight or flight. In short, we can breathe and we can calm down or self-regulate. A baby's brain is not mature and is a work in progress, ever changing. So we cannot expect a baby to calm down or self-regulate. They just don't have the capacity to do this alone. With regard to the term self-soothing, a study by Anders in the 1970s found that 50% of babies are signalers and cry out for support when they come through a sleep cycle. The other 50% are soothers and find their thumbs to suck to find comfort first. They will eventually signal for support, but not immediately. In very simple terms, babies have needs, not wants. And you cannot train a baby not to need you. They are hardwired for survival. And studies support they will seek out love and comfort over food. The fourth trimester, this is a time to build trust, attachment, and establish a positive feeding relationship. Be responsive, gentle, and respectful. It's a family affair. It certainly is. Your baby affects you and you affect your baby. Okay. So actually changing your habits to support yourself is easier than trying to change your baby's. It certainly is. To help your baby establish their circadian rhythm, choose a time of day to start the day that suits the family, either 7 till 7 or 8 till 8. Suits the family. Okay, so to expose them to 12 hours of daylight, including naps, and 12 hours of dim light or darkness, and be as consistently as possible. This will help them to learn night and day. A calm baby sleeps better. So if they are fussy or worked up or can't latch, try some skin on your chest to calm, reset, and co-regulate. Occasionally, lay baby down awake, safely in a crib close to you, with their feet touching the bottom to give a nice secure boundary, and slide into the crib rather than lower. Baby wearing is a wonderful way to share the care. Partners or other helpers can walk around hands-free whilst enjoying a loving and gentle connection. Safe sling wearing flyer available for download. Keep daytime sleep with the family and all the normal home life noise. Be curious and open-minded as to how your baby communicates. Watch your baby for subtle or obvious sleep and feed cues, and respond quickly to avoid meltdowns. Planning your 4th trimester. Make life easier for yourself. Will someone help you to prepare for your first 10 to 12 weeks with your baby? Well, whatever you think you may be up for doing in the first month after birth, you could begin by writing a list of requirements that will bring you peace and joy, such as a nice clean house, a stash of yummy food in the freezer, a nice home massage, feeding your baby. However you decide to feed your baby, feeding is a relationship. It takes time and begins with little and often. The amount of time it takes to care for a newborn can be quite a surprise. In the UK, birth doulas are now offering postpartum services as part of their packages. This really is continuity of care. The service can be completely flexible to your daily needs, a bit of light housework, walking the dog, helping with siblings, or prepping a meal for the freezer. Invest in your postpartum. Invest with some extra help with someone who can give support with feeding and settling the baby. Must be the best gift to yourself. Maybe ask for a doula gift voucher at your baby shower. So this concludes my very short presentation on infant sleep. I hope you have gained an understanding of how sleep works in the first weeks home with your baby, and please take advantage of my giveaway, which I'll explain in a moment. I'd like to say I can highly recommend Lindsay Hopgood's book, Let's Talk About Your Family Sleep. It's a great read in pregnancy and is on offer for November on Kindle, and it's an absolute bargain. So my offer is, if you register today by email, you can go on my website and go to the bottom, contact, and register, and I will keep your email. If you, in the email, you give me your due date, and I will give you a free 30-minute Zoom online to troubleshoot sleep session. It's a troubleshooting sleep session. And this will be valid for 12 months after your due date. So that concludes, and I will come out of my share now and hand back over to Karen. And please enjoy the rest of the summit, everyone.
Thank you so much, Tracey. That was absolutely wonderful, and just so good to get such a holistic perspective on infant sleep. Once again, I want to thank everybody for joining us today. And we have got at least 15 or 20 minutes for you to ask Tracey questions about infant sleep and all the things that you've been thinking about, especially if something that she said has sparked off, perhaps it's different to what you thought you knew, or it's a new perspective that you hadn't considered before. And then just a reminder as well that all the links that Tracey mentioned, that she's prepared for you, so she's really put together a package of information, will be sent to you in the follow-up email, as well as the link to her website, so that you can sign up for that free 30-minute consultation. And thank you so much, Tracey, for making that available for at least a year after the due date, because really that is when they need it. Mm-hmm. So for anybody who wants to ask a question, now is your time. And you can just unmute yourself so that you can ask directly, or you can ask in the chat section, the chat room. But it'll be nice if you can actually ask Tracey your question directly. So is there anybody that has a question for Tracey about sleep? Let's just see. I'm going to put gallery view so I can see everybody. Anybody who'd like to ask a question, you can unmute yourself, or you should be able to. While we're waiting for somebody to ask a question, Tracey, I wonder if I can ask you to talk a little bit more about self-soothing. You mentioned that it was something that you had to unlearn, and I know that I see a lot of posts on Instagram and Facebook about self-soothing. Can you maybe just explain a little bit more about what the concept of self-soothing is and why it has changed, and why your teaching has changed around self-soothing?
Okay, so regulation, children's regulation, you know, they can't come, the brain just isn't, a baby's brain just isn't mature enough to come down from a state of stress to a state of calm. So it's not age appropriate to leave a child unsettled to eventually put their thumb in or find something to bring themselves back down to self-regulation. So it's understanding that the baby's brain isn't mature enough. So to leave a baby is not respectful, and it is acknowledging that.
So in other words, a baby isn't able to soothe themselves. And so if they are calling out, crying, it means that they're needing assistance. They're wanting to be either picked up or fed, or soothed in some way.
Exactly. It is their survival mechanism. There are signalers and self-soothers, but eventually, you know, the self-soothers will call out for help, and that, you know, no one's around and they're hungry or cold or wet, and they need to signal, and they can't, you know, leaving them is not appropriate, because they, you know, they can't do that. All that you're telling them is that, you know, no one comes, and what message is that to give to a baby?
And you mentioned something about 7 to 7 or 8 to 8. So a 24-hour period. What can you explain that a little bit more in a little bit more detail?
Yeah. So it's flood. It's to help your baby understand day and night. So when they're born, their longer sleep periods are usually in the daytime. So it's getting them the right way round to the circadian rhythm, to rhythmicity to coincide with yours. So flooding them with daylight for 12 hours, and likewise dim lights and nighttime. So this will get the circadian rhythm the same as yours.
And when you say 7 to 7 or 8 to 8,
yes, so start a bedtime.
Decide.
Yeah. So start your day consistently. So start your day that suits the family, 7 a.m. or 8 a.m. in the morning. Open the curtains. If the baby's not awake, you can start just moving around, and just flood them with daylight, as much daylight as possible during the day, for 12 hours. And then when you're say 7, 8, if you've got them up at 8 o'clock in the morning, again, dim lights and low noise.
And you know, a lot of parents, especially first-time parents, come home and they say baby's staying awake more at night than during the day, so they're sleeping all day and waking frequently at night. Now, we know that that's very common newborn behavior, because one of the circadian rhythms is also because of the frequent feedings, and specifically night feedings. Can you maybe talk into a little bit more about that and just reassure parents that it really is normal, and that it just takes time for babies to settle into that, and that's part of the process of them getting settled in the first few weeks of life?
Yeah, absolutely. And we want the frequent night wakings, as I've said, is a safety feature rather than a design fault. So long periods, like 5 hours for a newborn, and certainly, you know, into the second month, until after, at least 2 months. It's the highest risk period for SIDS. So frequent waking is a safety feature. So their tummies, as you know, are very small, and they feed and digest, particularly breast milk, and need feeding again. It is completely normal, but the night wakings at night, the hormone prolactin is more frequent. So this is, they're working with mum to get the optimum milk supply established. So
I love what you say about it being a safety feature. And it really is. So for parents to be reassured that really that's part of it does also make a big difference. And also because of cluster feeding. So cluster feeding is so normal in those specifically the first 2 weeks, where, as you say, the prolactin levels are guiding the feeding and sleeping. So babies are kind of hardwired to feed more frequently at night. And it is unfortunate that it's very often in the early hours of the morning when mom and dad are exhausted, but really that is what assists to establish the milk supply.
Yeah, and adjust to that. So that's what I was saying. It's easier to change your habits than try and change your baby's. So you need to nap during the day. You need to nap during the day to get you ready for the night shift. So if I'm working a night shift, and I'm sure if you're working a night shift, Karen, you don't push through the day and stay awake all night. No, we have a jolly good nap during the day to prepare for the night. So this is, it's just what you need to do to function for at least 4 to 6 weeks. Before then, the circadian rhythm starts to kick in, and they'll take their longer sleep, say, a stretch of 3-4 hours post midnight, or when when it's darker.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
So it's just a matter of adjusting as parents, but don't fight it, and take a good nap during the day to get you ready for that night shift. Or go to bed early if you can. 8:30 might seem a bit silly, but it's not, it'll pass. It's not forever. And it's just you working with your baby to support them through this period.
What can you say to reassure new parents about guiding their babies into healthy sleep habits? What would be your best piece of advice for that?
Be curious, and not one shoe fits all. To get to really observe your baby, and lots of baby wearing.
Baby wearing is
a way, to co-regulate and reassure your baby that you're there for them, and respond quickly. I find that responding quickly to babies, you see them staring, and they're going to wake up, and get to them as quickly as possible, especially in those first weeks, so that they don't, go off like a siren and make feeding a little bit, stressful.
Absolutely. And it's just a calm reassurance. So it's just about letting them know in your own calm way that you're there to support them, and to soothe them.
The skin activates that connection.
And there's a question from Sarah Goodwin. Thank you so much, Sarah, and welcome. She's asking how we can get dads involved at night with those night feedings, especially if mom is breastfeeding. It's very difficult for the dads to do anything, and very often they feel like they're so helpless. So how would you recommend that they get involved so that they can guide with encouraging babies into healthy sleeping patterns while still supporting the mom to establish healthy breastfeeding, if she's choosing to breastfeed and if she is breastfeeding?
Well, like I said, the intentional bed sharing you will find easier because you're in a laying down position. But if the baby, sometimes, it's really common for a feed to happen and an explosion in the bottom half. So passing sliding the baby over to dad to do that side of things is a massive help. You don't want, if you've had a cesarean birth, getting in and out of bed is uncomfortable. So if dad can do the settling and you can do the feeding, that is a massive help at night. It really is. And really supportive, and it's 50-50. So I would get dads to do the changing and the settling. And remember that babies are very sensitive to temperature. So if you're going to undress the baby, dads, make sure the changing mat is warm with a towel or something. And you can hold their little hands and put your thumbs in the palms and just get them ready to experience that, and make sure the aircon's off or it's warm in the room, when you're changing the diaper.
And one of the things that I also wanted to bring up, specifically because you talked about intentional bed sharing, and I know that you talked about this in your presentation, but some of the people arrived late, and it goes back to a lot of what you've already shared. But if you can just repeat about the safety aspects, because many people are concerned if they share their bed with their baby that they will fall asleep, that they will suffocate, or that they will smother their baby. So can you just also, once again, just reassure parents about what intentional bed sharing is about and how it can be done safely and how it is good for the baby and for the family unit?
Yeah, so intentional bed sharing is just that. You intend to bed share, so you prepare the space. So make sure the pillows behind the baby's head are out of the way and your arm is above the baby's head. You put the baby in the curve of your body with your knees bent, and make sure the mattress is a good mattress that is firm and flat, that it's not sinking in the middle and the baby will roll onto their face. So you don't want the baby to sink into a curve in the mattress that might cause them to go face down. And they can either, when you're feeding side lying, they can just roll on their backs. And there's this thing that babies have to sleep on their side so they don't choke. Well, we know there's a gag reflex, natural gag reflex, and it's better for babies to be on their backs so that if they do, posset and bring some milk back, it'll run down the side of their faces, out of their mouth, sorry. So no loose covers. You can pop them in a sleeping bag or put a nice thick, warmer sleep suit on, and ensuring they're warm. You can just check their tummy that they're warm, and that they'll sleep better if they're close to you. So,
I think that's beautiful. And I love the way that you say it's intentional bed sharing. So, when it's intentional, then you've done everything you can to ensure the safety and you understand how it works. So that is the difference between, just falling asleep. It's intentional bed sharing with understanding how that works and what you need to have in order to make it safe and how it guides the feeding. We've had another question about, is it best to let baby sleep in a dark or a light room during the daytime? So that goes back to what you described before.
Yeah, daylight naps are better because it helps with the circadian rhythm. They don't produce melatonin until at least 4 to 6 weeks. So and there's an average about that. So it's not going to help with young infants.
To put them in a dark room.
No.
So it's better for them to learn the difference between daylight and night.
That's the first thing you've got to support them with to get them into circadian rhythmicity.
So helping them understand it. Yeah. Now there's another one. Can you clarify, sleeping on the back will allow milk to roll out of the mouth or on the side?
No, yeah, on the back. Yeah. Well, it's safer. Yeah.
Yeah. So, once again, you know, we've put all of the supporting material that we'll be sharing with you, and all of that is about the Back to Sleep and the Safe Sleeping campaign. And remember that babies have got a gag reflex. They are born with a gag reflex, and that gag reflex stays with them. Well, we still have it as adults, but it's really developed until at least 2 years of age. So they will naturally spit out anything that comes up, which is why babies vomit and why they are such happy spitters. I mean, they're constantly spitting up little bits, and we call that a posit. So after a feed, you know, when they burp, they will often bring up a small amount of milk. When you put them down, a little bit will roll out. But that's because that gag reflex is so developed, and it is to prevent them from choking.
Karen, can I just add that if anyone is in the group now with children and they would like to have a 30-minute troubleshooting sleep session with me, they can register today to do that, and we can.
Can you maybe put your details in the chat section so that they can just copy and paste that, and then they can go ahead and do that? That would be wonderful.
Okay, yes, I will.
And while Tracey's doing that, are there any other questions from anybody about infant sleep? And when are all your babies due, so that we know how much longer we've got to prepare for all this, get all this information for you to set everything up and have conversations with your partners, work out how you're going to navigate those first 2 weeks. What kind of support are you bringing in? You know, Tracey mentioned the simple things like making sure that you have frozen meals, that you've got support around the house, and just remembering that the first 6 weeks are very different to the rest of the baby's life. The first 6 weeks are incredibly taxing because, especially if it's your first baby, you've got a new little, very dependent being in your household that is constantly requiring your attention.